Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. My name is CHU and today we're going to be covering my mixing process start to finish. This is one you guys have been asking for a while, so I just want to get it done for you guys because you guys have been showing mad love lately and I want to show you some love back. This is a long video, so I'm not even gonna waste time in this intro. I wanna say a couple of things before we get into it. The first thing being, all these presets will be available, like all the mixing presets, all the mastering presets will be available in the 14 drum kit. Just download it. There'll be a DLC preset pack called the Chef in the Kitchen pack, and you can just get all these, like the sidechain presets, the melody mixer presets. I'll include a bunch of other cool things in there too for you. It's totally free, just download it. And of course, if you already have the 14 drum kit, you're just gonna get an email update, so you don't have to download it again. So don't worry about it. Everyone's gonna get it for free. The second thing is that I'm not gonna do timestamps. I'm gonna do like a little competition. The first person who can watch the entire tutorial and make accurate timestamps and comment them below, I'll pin that comment, so you'll be doing the entire community a service. And then I'll also give you every kit in my store, and I'll give you the CHU Method kit bundle as well, 100% free. I'll just have you hit me up on Instagram. I'll reach out to you somehow and I'll get you blessed, because that would be another great service to me and the community. And you know, it's just a dope way to get everyone involved. And then the last thing I want to say before we get out of here and get into the tutorial is that please drop a like on this video. Like, I normally don't like plead with y'all to do something like that, but like, I want this video to be seen by a decent number of the dope content only community, not even just having it sent out to the algorithm for YouTube, but just for the community in here. And the best way to get, you know, everyone to see it on their browse page is to drop likes on this, comment, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Just engage with this. Even if you don't end up watching the whole thing, just try to help other people, you know, see the whole thing. But other than that, let's get into the tutorial. Thank you so much for coming by. Peace. Okay, so if we can just jump right in, I want to show you guys first what the final mix of this is, because I dropped this beat on my channel yesterday, and I usually mix with a lot of free VSTs like Camel Crusher and, you know, stock stuff like Fruity Limiter and what the fuck is this? I'm blanking here. Fruity Parametric EQ2, but I will also use things like Ozone, you know, Retro Color, Gross Beat, which is like a paid, you know, thing on FL Studio. It's like $100 unless you get like one of like the deluxe packages, and you know, some stuff from the TR5 packages and just a bunch of other things. So I use a mix of stuff, but first let me show you what this ended up sounding like. And then if you want to hear the full beat, you can go to my to the beat. I'll link it up here like right now or something. But yeah, let me just play this for you real quick. So yeah, super hard, really good mix. There's two really cool things going on there. That 808 buzz is crazy, and then there's a lot of like really dope side chaining effects going on. And I think those are things that you guys ask about a lot, and I want to get in depth into how I did both of those things today. But for one, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clear every single mixer track. So I'm gonna do that by basically going to each mixer track, control clicking or right clicking it, and then selecting what is it, file? Yes. And then going to default, clicking the default setting. So I'm gonna bring every mixer track back to its default setting, so none of them will have effects. So I'm just gonna do that, and I'll probably fast forward through it in editing. All right, so you know, drastically different, right? So I'm going to show you guys how we can get to that final product using stock VSTs. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to, because I want to show you the very first stage of my mixing, which is stage, I call it stage 1 leveling, and I do that in the channel rack. So I'm going to come correct all the volumes in the channel rack really quick, and then select a section to do some leveling from there. And I'll kind of talk you guys through what that looks like in a second. But first, I'm going to reset all the levels for this really quickly. So yeah, since this section has all the drums, we can start here. So the first thing that I usually do is I always start like any kind of leveling based off of the 808, because that is always the loudest thing in my mixes. The 808 and the kick or any sub sounds are always going to be the loudest things in my mix. So I start there. I try to find a comfortable level that's not clipping, and then I just set that, and then I kind of go from there. So that's what I'm going to do first. So you can already see that it's kind of clipping a little bit with that red. I don't want any clipping initially coming from, and you can even see it right here in the master. And you can see it here. Oh, is this linked? Oh, let me unlink everything. Oh, crap. That was one thing I didn't do. I meant to, because that's part of getting that 808 fuzz. Crap, I meant to take that out. Let me see what else is linked. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, let's unlink everything so that I can give you guys just a pure view of what my mixes look like. So you can see that clipping. It's not necessarily bad, but I don't want any clipping initially, especially not in my first stage of leveling, because that's going to make everything so much more difficult moving forward. It's really easy to raise the volume later, but it gets more and more difficult to reduce the volume if you start it off really loud. So I actually like to start quiet, and that would be my first tip, is to start quiet whenever you're mixing and then go up from there. It's much more difficult to start loud and then get louder, or, you know, start loud and bring it down. You have to undo a lot of stuff if you have to do it like that. So yeah. So I like that. So now I'm just going to start bringing in sounds, and I'm going to level everything under that. And I'm going to go ahead and just talk through it while I do it. Kick should be about, you know, laying on top. You should hear it, but it shouldn't be overpowering. About the same level as the 808, honestly. That's where it ends up getting leveled for me. Then I'll bring in the next heaviest sound, which is probably the snare. So you can already see how that's starting to sound fucking bomb. So let's see what else we can bring in. Maybe another snare. Another one. Just level it in. The snares should sit under the kick and the sub. They should be the next loudest things, but they shouldn't be as loud as the kick and the sub, or the 808. In my mixing style anyway. So here's another snare, we're just leveling that in. This is more of an accent, so I want it to be a little bit more quiet. Alright, let's see what this snare is. Okay, we want that a little bit more quiet. Yeah, there we go. Just, I want it more felt than heard. Definitely for that one. I think this was something that I didn't end up using, so we don't need that. Next, we're gonna start working on the hi-hats, I believe. Right? That was the next thing. So yeah, once I've done like the sub, the kick, the snares, I'll move on to the hi-hats and any like other like high-pitched perk sounds. So let's start with the live hats first. These high sounds, because they hit such high frequencies, they're gonna sound naturally louder to humans. We have a tendency to perceive very high pitched sounds as louder than low pitched sounds, which is why you can turn your sub up like super high without it sounding really, really loud, but why you can't turn up hi-hats very loud without them sounding obnoxious. So you want to bring these lower, you want to tuck these under those snares which you tucked under the 808. So you tuck the snare under the kick in the 808, and then you tuck the hi-hats slightly under the snares, or you know, under those mid-level perk sounds. So here's another live hat. Ooh, that's loud, that's loud. Turn that down more. That's good. That's a loud sound. There we go. That's good. Okay, so that's actually done. So before I bring in the melody and start leveling it, there's one more thing that I want to touch on, is the fact that I have a sub bass in this beat. I have three, subsections actually in this beat. I have the 808, I have the sub, and then I have this other like Zay 808. I have like the Wonder Girl type 808, Eastbound 808. Got the Mike Dean sub bass, and then I have this like Zay 808 here. So I'm gonna come to this section that uses the Zay 808, and I'm gonna level that 808 against the drum sounds that I've done so far, because I know that I started with a good level, so I can use the relative levels if that makes sense, to adjust this 808. And I'll do the same thing for the sub bass in another section. I'm just gonna, juxtapose it against the sounds that I've already leveled. So let's go ahead and bring that in right here. So it should still be the loudest thing. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're gonna use a reference level for the 808s, and then that's gonna help us do everything else. But you wanna get it, sounding nice in this section. I like that. I'm content with that. So then let's move on to this last section, which has the sub bass, and we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna level it. Oh, and this is even better because it has the kick, so we can level it right against the kick. Oh. Look how good that sounds, just leveling it off the channel rack, bro. That's the beat is good to go, basically, just off of that. So now we can bring the melody in. So here's the thing about leveling the melody. It is usually going to have the highest frequencies and cover the greatest range of frequency out of anything you have in your entire beat. So for that reason, it's going to sound very loud without it having to actually have a lot of like magnitude to its volume. So you don't want it to be very, very loud. Actually, you want to tuck it, around the same general level that you took the hi-hats, because it's a high pitch thing, or it's gonna have a lot of those high pitches and high frequency artifacts. But you also have to take into consideration that it is covering a very great frequency range. It's gonna start from that low end of like 200 and then move all the 200 hertz and then move all the way up to possibly 8,000 hertz or even 10,000 hertz. So with that being said, it's going to sound loud because of all those frequencies it's covering. So take that into consideration when you're leveling it. So that's good. So I'm just gonna take this and copy this value and then paste it to this second melody, which is just, oh shit. Copy value, paste value, because it's the same melody, it's just pitched up. Also, shout out Jazz Omen for sending me these melodies, bro. He helps me make a lot of money each month sending me these fire beats, these fire melodies, bro. Okay, but yes, we're good to go with this. So it's completely leveled. So this is what we've got now, which is gonna sound way better. So it's just way better. So now we're gonna move into here, and again, well, before we move on to the second stage of leveling, we're actually going to add some effects. So we're gonna start with the melody. So I want to do some EQ right off the bat. I don't want really anything below like, say 150. Really like 180. This is not the most masterful like equalizing technique, but this telephone EQ is something that like basically every producer does at this point. People aren't even ashamed to do it anymore. Like you don't have to come in here and change all these fucking knobs or whatever the fuck, like, and adjust all the bands. A lot of times it really is as simple as just creating this simple, you know, high pass, low pass telephone EQ, finding the low and high frequencies that you don't like and taking them out. Don't overthink it. Like people are going to tell you have to EQ out high end and low end artifacts and all that other shit, bro. Just EQ it to where it sounds good. Like, look, it sounds way better just with this. It sounds so much more tame. So, you know what I'm saying? Just don't overthink it. I'm gonna bring this down just a little bit. So the next thing I'm gonna add is some chorus just to make it sound a bit thicker. And I love this fat clean preset and fruity chorus. So I'm just gonna use that. This got it sounding beautiful. And then I'm going to add some delay actually and use this widen preset. Reduce that volume a little bit more. And then I'm gonna come add some reverb, and I'm gonna use this God's Root preset, which is gonna be available very soon in my 14 drum kit for free. But you can just basically copy these settings. I've just found that these settings for some reason, I actually learned this from Aiden Kenway. Shout out to the GOAT. In one of his videos, I've found that this reverb preset for some reason just makes everything sound better. He even said that in the video that I learned this from. He was like, just do this and it'll make all your melodies, anything you put this reverb on, it will sound good. I've even put this shit on like 808s before and it made it sound good. So like this, just copy these presets and slap it on your melody at the end of the chain, bro. I don't know why, but it's just gonna make that shit sound really good. So yeah, God's Room, but it'll also be available for free like pretty soon on in my 14 drum kit, and y'all will get an update about that. But yeah, I'm gonna just slap on this reverb, see how that sounds. Yeah, that sounds great. So before I move on to anything else in terms of effects, I'm gonna show you guys this little parallel compression thing that I do with my melodies. I didn't add any like crazy reverb here because I don't like to add reverb directly onto the track that has the melody on it. I've noticed that it can make things sound muddy and it kind of destroys the original signal, and I don't like to do that. So what you can do, let me just make sure. You know what? I'm just going to use one that I know is empty. I'm going to route it to 28. So what I do is I'll bust the audio out to another track. And then I'll add the effects here. And I talked about this in my vocal processing tutorial, you know, a couple days ago. It's called parallel compression, basically. So I'll take the effect that I want. So now I want to do like some hall reverb or something. So yeah, there we go. So that already sounds better than just slapping it right on here. But then I'm going to take this one step further and control the mix just a little bit because I don't want too much. So that's even better. And then I can take this EQ and tame it so that I don't get all those nasty, you know, frequencies that get added on from reverb. So that's excellent. And then I'm going to take a limiter. I'm just going to add a limiter, come to compression, turn the ratio up to 3 to 1 because that ratio just always works for some reason. And then I'm going to bring the threshold way down so that it's barely letting the effect come through. It's really like compressing the effect. I'm going to bring the release down, turn the attack up just a little bit. There. And then I'm just going to level. You see like how different that sounds? Listen to it without the parallel compression chain. Like that's fire, but like listen to it now. Like that shit, it sounds like you're in like a, I don't even know, like in a space station or some shit. But so now you can level this against this until it sounds good to you. So I'm just gonna, you know, do something like this. So I think that's good. And then we're still gonna level it a little bit more when we get to the stage 2 leveling, but you know, I think that's good for now. So we can move on from the melody. The next thing that I'm gonna add effects to is the 808 and the sub and then the other 808. So let's see where. So let's start with the sub bass then. So something that I do to every single 808 and every single sub bass, every single time. I do this every single time actually, is I'll use this little, and let me show you how to do it actually so that you know. I'll set this first band to a steep 8 so that it does like a very hard cut, and I'll always bring it to 30 hertz because those, unless you're in a unique situation, from what I've learned, unless you're in a unique situation, those are basically useless frequencies. The only thing it's going to do is make shit sound really, really muddy, and it's going to make things sound a lot more loose. And you want your mixes to sound, you know, clean and tight to like a reasonable degree. Like you're not going to get it perfect, but you can really clean shit up by just getting those frequencies out. And then this has the added benefit of making your subs in 808 kind of smack louder, because listen to the difference. You can even see how it peaks differently when you add this on. See how it's getting to 15? You turn it on and it starts getting to 12. So yeah, I just, you know, I always do that. And then actually, this has got a lot of high end on it. So I'm gonna go for like a steep 4. There we go. I think that's better. Because we're going to add distortion back to it later, so we don't really need all that. The next thing I like to do is just add some Camel Crusher. The British Clean is the best preset in Camel Crusher. Like, it's not even really debatable. So I'll add that on just to make it sound thicker. And then, yeah. So then I'm just going to come to another 808. I'm going to come to the next 808 and then just do the same thing. Or I'm going to come to the first 808 and do the same thing. I think it's this. There we go. So first we're going to do... just a simple EQ. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Just to tame the sounds mostly. You don't even have to do this all the time. Like, I mean, and it's in terms of, you know, taming the high end, definitely always tame that low end, in my opinion. Just tame it. But you don't always have to do it on the high end if you don't want to. I love that buzz on 808s, to be honest. Then just slap that Camel Crusher, British Clean. Like, I don't know why, man. That shit just smacks. And actually, I'm going to come add a limiter onto the end of each like bass and 808, just because we're going to need those in a second anyway. So let me just go ahead and do that at the end of each chain. Limiter. And then let's do that last 808. So, yeah, okay. And then I'll just add a limiter at the end of that. And then there we go. Those are all the effects. That's basically all the effects I ever do. I might do some variation of those effects with, you know, third-party VSTs, paid VSTs, different free or stock VSTs. But usually that's basically all the effects I'll add to my beats. I'll leave most of my drums really dry because I just like when they smack. I might add like reverb to hi-hats sometimes, but I don't do it like often. Actually, that's cap. I do add reverb to live hats. I'm gonna do that really quickly. But I use the God Room preset. So yeah, I'll use the God Room preset, and then I'll use that dry knob to just level it against the trap hats or something. But yeah, that's basically all the effects that I end up doing. So the last thing we're going to cover is sidechaining. So I will usually sidechain the kick to the live hats, all of the subs and 808s, and then the melody, right? So, where's the kick? find the kick. So once you have a limiter on everything that you want to make sure you put a limiter on everything that you want to sidechain to first. So I've got it on the melody, I've got it on the live hats, and I've got it on, you know, all the 808s. I think, yeah, 808s, all the 808s and subs. So actually, let me start labeling these things as I go too. Okay. So, right, we've got everything labeled. So the first thing we want to do to get the sidechain is right click this little arrow under each thing that we want to sidechain to, and then click sidechain to this track. You don't want to click this. This setting sucks for some reason, and you don't want to only route it. You want to sidechain because you want that sidechain effect. And sidechaining is basically when the signal of something is coming in, so the signal of the kick is coming in, it's going to trigger an automation that's going to reduce the volume of everything that it is sidechained to. So if it's, for example, if it's sidechained to the hi-hats, which it will be, it's going, every time the kick creates a signal, it's going to compress the volume of the live hats to, and that basically helps accentuate the kick. Basically, it adds a really nice punch to trap beats, especially those like Toronto, you know, new wave trap beats, you know, like Drake, fucking Travis Scott, whenever Wonder Girl's producing for him, you know, anything that Six makes for Logic, basically, you know, you've heard that effect before, especially if you listen to my beats. So yeah, we're gonna sidechain this to everything. So sidechain it to the melody. Make sure this track is selected every time you sidechain, and then just right click sidechain to this track, and you'll know that it's sidechained when you get that little linking. Sidechain it to the melody. I mean, sidechain it to the 808. Sidechain it to the sub. Sidechain it to the second 808. Right. So now, and I have a preset for this, but I want to show you how to make it one time, and then I'm going to use the preset the remaining times. So anytime you want to create the sidechaining effect after you've sidechain linked your kick or anything that you want to sidechain to the thing that you're sidechaining, anything that you want, once you've linked, this is so confusing to explain out loud. Once you've linked your sidechain trigger to the thing that you want to sidechain, so let's say you've linked the kick to like the live hats or the 808, which is what we're about to do, you'll come to the limiter that you put on it, you'll go to compress mode, and then you'll come to this sidechain drop down menu, and you'll right click it and select the thing that is sidechained to it. That's how you'll know if you did it right. And then the first thing you're gonna do is turn the knee all the way up, and then bring the threshold down. So right, once you turn the knee down, turn the knee all the way up, and then bring this threshold down until it begins to, you know, squish down the 808. So you see, that's too much. So find something that sounds really good. I want it to let go just a little bit more, and I'm going to turn up the attack just a little bit. Actually, no, I'm not, because I want it to start right away, but I want it to release a little bit faster. And then we can bring that threshold back down a little bit more to get even more punch. Oh, that shit sounds so beautiful, bro. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so we're basically just going to apply the preset to every other one. So now you can hear how it will sound with the live hats. Bro, listen to that. That's beautiful. Freaking, I love that shit so much. So I made a mistake. The kick is never playing while the Zay 808 is playing, so we don't need that limiter. at all, actually. So then do the same thing for the melody. Bring the preset on. Crazy, bro. Like, that shit just sounds, I love it. I don't sidechain every time, bro, but when I do, bro, it just adds that extra. I love it, bro. So we're just gonna do it to the sub, and that'll be the last thing that we end up sidechaining. Again, just bring in the preset. And you know, let me know if you guys want any of these presets. I can make like a little pack of like all these presets and just give them to y'all for free, because you know, it doesn't take anything to give this to y'all. I probably will bring that release up a little bit, actually. Turn that threshold down. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, so that, I mean, bro, if you wanted to just take the beat and go from there, bro, you're basically good. This shit is beautiful to me right now. From what we started with, oh my god, like, we're so much better. But now we need to get into level 2 mixing, which is like, I think that's what everybody considers when they're talking about mixing. Is like, what's the levels? What am I supposed to do? Like, where do I start? What's the best dB? Blah blah blah. And all that shit is really stupid, honestly. Even like decibel references, like leveling references, all of that shit is dumb. Just here's what you need to know. These are the most important things that you need to consider every time you level. Your 808 needs to be the loudest thing. Your 808 and your kick need to be the loudest thing. Your melody should never be peaking above your 808 ever. No matter how loud you decide to make your melody, it can never, in my experience, it should never peak above your 808, because it's gonna sound too loud and then it's gonna sound really bad. And you know, in this type of production that we do in this day and age, from pop music to trap to R&B, the sub, the 808, the bass guitar is always the heaviest thing. It's gonna be the loudest thing, and that's because of the way, you know, mix engineers level it. That's because of the way producers level it. It's done on purpose because it sounds sonically pleasing to everybody who's listening to it. So make sure your 808 is the loudest thing. Make sure your melody is never peaking above the sub. I think that really might be it. I'm trying to think if there's anything like you really need to consider in terms of leveling. Oh, you don't want anything to be clipping when you're leveling normally, unless if you plan on mastering, you don't want anything to be clipping when you are leveling, because your master is going to make things get really close to that high. It's going to make it louder. So if it's already really loud, then it's gonna sound really bad if you master it. But if you don't plan on mastering, you can just turn your levels up all the way to, like, if I'm not gonna master, I'll usually let my peak be like -3 or -2 dB, honestly. But since I usually do master, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to master in this video, I usually use a peak of like -15. So that's what we're gonna start with here. So my sub 808s and kick will all hit and peak at 15, and I'll move around that decibel range. And then that will be the loudest thing, and that will set kind of like that peak level that everyone's always asking for, and then we'll tuck everything underneath it, and I'll kind of talk through that as we go. So let's start with the sub bass, I guess. That's fine. Oh, actually, solo it. Oh my gosh. Guys, before we level, okay, so we're about to get into leveling, but I forgot to show you one more thing. There's one more thing I do in terms of effects that to get that 808 buzz and that sub buzz. I completely forgot to show you guys this. I'm so sorry. So I'm gonna take everything and we're gonna, hold on. So I'm gonna basically do the same parallel compression that I did for the subs. I'm gonna do the same parallel compression technique that I did for the melody, but do it for the sub bass and the 808s. And instead of using reverb, we're gonna use distortion. So I'm gonna take this 808 and link it, not sidechain it, just link it. And you can just do that by selecting the thing that you wanna link, and then going to the bus, and then just clicking this arrow, and you'll be good to go. So I just did that with the 808. Next, I'm gonna do it with the sub. Then I'm gonna do it with the second 808. So right, you already see how that makes it sound louder. Then we're gonna add some distortion. I love this fuzz preset. I've been fucking with this really heavily recently, right? But that's fucking obnoxious, right? So we're gonna control the mix so we get something that's good, just subtle. I like that. Then I'm gonna add some EQ. Oh, I need all the other 808s to be on. All right, right. So then we're gonna come here, add the limiter so we can get some parallel compression action, ratio 3:1. And then we're gonna bring that threshold down to compress the distortion effect. Then we're just gonna level that. So, you know, it's subtle, but it's really difference making in my beats. And I think it can be difference making in your beats too. It's a really, parallel compression is just a really cool technique to just add really dope effects in a new kind of way, or in a unique kind of way. You know, it's a technique I've been trying to really learn a lot more about. So yeah, I forgot to tell you guys about that one thing. So yeah, parallel compression, but doing it with distortion on the sub bass and the 808s really adds that oomph to my beats, like, a lot of the time. You can even hear it on the Zay 808. I love that. Okay, now we can get into leveling. Sorry about that. So yeah, 808 hitting at 15, sub bass hitting at 15, peaking at 15, I mean. And then this Say 808's about to come in, so that's the last thing. Bring it up a little bit more. Too much. Perfect. So now we can do the kick. Again, this will be around 15, maybe tucked just a little bit under 15, going like towards 16. Oh, that is not the kick. All right, so now we're gonna bring in the snares, and those just, you know, bring them underneath those heaviest sounds, and then just find a place where it sounds good. I like when my snare is close to my kicks, honestly, in terms of volume. Just find good levels. There's no like hard and steadfast rule for this. I mean, you can use mixing references if you want. That can be helpful, especially if you're a beginner. But you know, you're gonna have to play it from ear eventually if you want to become a professional. Tuck it. You want to tuck the hats kind of lower than the snares, towards the kind of where you had the higher sounding perks, because they have those high frequencies, so they're gonna sound loud naturally. Then bring the live hats in. Actually, let's do some side chaining to these trap hats as well, because I don't think I actually leveled them in the first level of when we were leveling in the channel rack. I don't actually think that I turned these on. It might have been something that I forgot. So let's bring on this limiter, put on the preset, and then we're going to sidechain the kick to the hi-hats, not like that, like that. There we go. Bring in this live hat. Last thing we're gonna bring in is the melody. So this one's not so dynamic. Actually, it is pretty dynamic. You see how it gets louder at some parts, but then it stays kind of low. But I really like how it sounds around between like negative 21 and negative 24. So that's pretty good. That's around the same place that our hi-hats. No. We can actually bring our hi-hats up a little bit then. Bring the melody down a little bit. I think that's pretty good actually. So let's see how that compares to all the levels we did. So if our sub and 808s and all that shit kicks were here, snares were right under it, and then our hi-hats were kind of like around, let's say, negative 27, and then this live hat is really low. It's more of like a accent than anything. So our melody is sitting at around negative 24 to negative 21, and honestly I'd say that's pretty consistent for me. I've noticed that they will end up kind of like around here. And then if it's a super dynamic melody, whereas like some parts are hitting like really loud here and then some parts are hitting really low here, I'll usually just, I'll never let it peak above that. Is, just the end all be all rule. Never let it get above this. But you really don't even want to let it get close. Because again, the louder your melody is in terms of like actual decibel magnitude, the more obnoxious those artifacts are going to sound because it's covering such a high range of frequency. So now we can get into the last part of this, which is the mastering, and it's super, super easy. If you want to check out like my mastering tutorial for like how to master beats using like stock FL Studio plugins and stuff like that, you can check that out here. I'll link it like right now or something. And then you can definitely find it in the description below. And then all you have to do is type in CHU beats mastering tutorial or whatever in YouTube or Google, and you'll find it automatically. But it's really simple. The first thing I'll do is I'll just come in and add a soft clipper, and I'll just turn each one up to like 85 or 86%. Or I'll turn this up to 86%, and then I'll turn this up to like a threshold of like about 2 decibels, negative 2 decibels. Just add that like smack, and then I'll bring in a fruity parametric EQ 1, and I'll just bring this up to about 300 because that's that low mid frequency, and I'll boost it just a little bit. This is like a club. This is called a club EQ because you want those low ends to be accentuated, and then you want the high end to be accentuated. So we're gonna boost this just a little bit as well, the lowest frequencies. And then we're going to boost the highest frequencies again, just a little bit, very subtly. I'm going to do this a little bit more. And then the last thing we're going to do is add this limiter. So the first thing we're going to do with this limiter is turn the ceiling all the way up. And then we're going to bring the gain up until it starts peaking around like -3, between -1 and -3. It depends on what you want. And there's going to be a little bit of clipping, but that's fine at this point. And then you're going to use the ceiling to just cut those very peaks off, those very top peaks off. And you'll be able to see that it's being cut off by the white trace. Excellent. And then we're just gonna, I just usually turn all these knobs down. And actually, I'm gonna let it get a little bit louder because we're gonna do something that's going to bring the volume down anyway. So right, get that white trace going. And then I'll bring this saturation down just a little bit. And that'll add a little bit more grit to it. Oh, right there is perfect. So that's what it is without the master. You know, it's a good mix, but it's not very loud, which you want your beats to be loud on YouTube and on streaming, you know, anywhere you post it. So slap that on, and that smack comes in perfect. So yeah, that's basically my entire process, start to finish, of mixing and mastering my beats, if you can call it mastering. It's really simple, and it's really easy to apply. Just try to practice the process start to finish as many times as you can on a beat. Even on a beat that you really don't want to do it, or a beat that you think is not that good, it's still really good to do this, because every time you do it, you practice it and you get better at doing it faster. And then eventually it doesn't become annoying, it becomes something that's fun to do, or it doesn't become as tedious, it doesn't feel as tedious after a while. It becomes something that is fun to do. It becomes something that you like to, it becomes a skill that you like to hone. So, you know, I really hope you got something out of this. I really hope you learned something from my workflow. And yeah, I hope you have a good one. Peace.